Welcome to my channel, and this is English Podcast.
My guest today is Maina Zhou. Maina is a crypto podcaster. She's also the co-founder and CEO at NativeFi. She's a data scientist. I guess that makes her a very busy woman. But welcome to the show, Maina.
Yes, exactly. You have a very accurate description, a very busy woman. Thank you for featuring me on the show. Really appreciate to be here.
It is a pleasure. Look, we'll do what we do at the beginning of the show, Maina. It would be great if you could please introduce yourself. Love to hear a little bit of your personal and professional backstory, a little bit about who you are and what you've been doing in the lead up to co-founding Native.
Hello, everyone. My name is Maina. Very glad to be here. My personal journey is actually very interesting, I would say. As Andy already briefly mentioned, I actually tapped into a lot of different areas, or I should say industry. And to be honest, right, compared to most of the crypto founders, I'm actually a very fairly new joiner in the crypto space. Before the end of 2021, I was mainly focused on data science. I was and has been a data scientist for almost 7 or 8 years before year 2021. I was mainly working with different consulting firms to deliver customized end-to-end data science solutions to solve different business problems across industries such as financial services, marketing, technology, and pharmaceutical. And so my background is fairly technical, I would say. I used to manage large global data science teams with a full stack of like engineers, data analysts, as well as together working with the business teams to essentially deliver the best results and applications. And before the data science career, of course, I studied mathematics, economics, and a little bit marketing and business. So it's really the different areas of knowledge that form the current version of me today. And how I joined crypto, it was really back at the end of 2021. That's the first time I heard about the concept of Bitcoin and Ethereum through a friend's dinner. And the same night, because I was so fascinated, I bought my first Bitcoin. I also bought several Ethereum because I was so believed in the blockchain ethos. And I thought to myself, oh, this is definitely an uprising industry that I definitely need to tap into. And after learning a little bit more about the crypto industry for several months, then I decided to start my own podcast channel back in May 2022, where I interviewed a lot of founders, investors, artists, mainly for two purposes. First is really I want to learn about the industry. I want to know what top builders and investors they are building, what they believe in, right? What do they see in this industry that are so special? What are waiting for us to build in this industry? Second is to build up the foundation, right? Build my connections, knowing the right peoples, and essentially figuring out what can I contribute to the space. And then it was the end of 2022, I started to build Native. So that's like a general timeline of how my personal journey has transformed. But I think like none of those steps could be skipped.
Yes, indeed. Well, thank you, Maina. That makes sense. So understand where we are then. So it'd be good, I think, if you could describe a little bit about what Native is, and I guess kind of what the original vision was, whether that is still true. I guess the problem that you're trying to solve, and then we can go from there. But yeah, Native.
Yes, I mean, for today, Native's vision is we are building the omni-chain programmable liquidity hub on all networks for Web3. But really, the original of the idea naturally comes from the need in the market for better pricing mechanisms than what AMMs offers, right? Because what AMM offers is inaccurate pricing, which leads to retail users losing money for each of those transactions. They suffer severely from those MEV attacks. And then we started to tackle this first issue, which is the pricing inaccuracy issue by introducing the first version of Native, where we kind of aggregate the liquidity sources from both AMM sources and PMM sources. And essentially through our unified liquidity layer, which is our API router, we supply that liquidity to different aggregators, solvers, and projects so that they can utilize those liquidities within 5 minutes as long as they utilize our SDK. But over the last 1.5 years, when we are developing it, I realized it's not just about the inaccuracies of the pricing mechanism. Liquidity has another severe issue in Web3 is the liquidity fragmentation issues. We have so many blockchains, we have so many different protocols, and all those retail users, liquidity providers, they need to make a choice. Okay, where am I going to park my liquidity to, right? And when those supply side of the liquidity is so fragmented, it also leads to very low capital utilization rate. And essentially those users, they are not getting good yields from how they are parking their money. So how do we make the most capital efficient liquidity from both the supply side as well as the demand side of the user has become the core of our business problem. And over the last 1.5 years, we have developed total like 3 products, or we should say like 3 product features at Native to tackle those problems and essentially form the flywheel for our unified liquidity layer.
Yeah, very well explained. So let's talk about some of those different aspects of what you guys are building with Native. So you can see you kind of got like different products, right? There's Aqua for liquidity providers, I guess, for retail users, as you've explained. You've got Native X, for traders. You've got different endpoints as well for market makers and some other features as well. So I don't know, how do you want to approach this, but just kind of, I guess Aqua's the main one, right? But we can talk through some of them in turn if you like.
Sure. I mean, I think I understand, like, because we build 3 products and we name them all kind of differently, so it has like caused some confusions for not only the retail users but also the business partners. So actually, while we are filming this podcast, we are already undergoing a product unification process. Essentially, we are bringing every single product into the same umbrella under Native. So Aqua is not going to be called Aqua anymore. It will be called something like Native Earn or Native something. That name specifically, we haven't come to like a final name yet. But essentially, the 3 product lines will be first, which is Native Swap, where retail users, traders, they can come directly go to Native to swap. Second will be the Native Lending and Borrowing, where the liquidity providers, they can go directly to that page to lend and borrow funds, and where on the back end, like market makers, they will be utilizing the funds inside the pool to do credit-based trading. And then the third product, which is still in the building, is essentially like how do we connecting all those liquidity across different chains, meaning it's like the cross-chain functionality. But we are doing so different than any other protocols. So we are still like deciding a very cool name for that. But there were like the original one, which we mentioned is the B2B version, where like aggregators, solvers, right? They are the demand side of liquidity, where they just plug into our API, call our API, query for the best price for each of those token pairs whenever a user come directly to their website or their application to swap. So they are actually like calling us underlying. Or on the other side is like the market makers. They will be like providing the PMM pricing through the router. So that's like B2B side is like we serve both the supply and demand side of the liquidity, and it will always be like this. But the coordinative.org website will be more catered to a retail user perspective. And that is aligned with our next phase of marketing goal, because the first phase we already tackled most of the B2B side of things, where like we get connected to leading aggregators, leading market makers, leading solvers. And next phase is mass adoption. How do we serve the retail users better, no matter you are a trader or a liquidity provider?
Yeah, got it. Thank you, Maina. So yeah, I'm starting to understand it a bit better now. So the idea is it's really about market efficiency, right? And creating this sustainable liquidity flywheel that you've described. So LPs are attracted to supply that liquidity by getting some organic yields that come from the market makers. And then you've talked about how this is kind of a best of both worlds scenario, right? So talk about that. So I guess that's, LPs can face less risk of impermanent loss, but market makers, there are advantages for them as well. So just talk through that, however you want, what the advantages are for both LPs and market makers.
Sure. I think truly to form your question is where do we position us, or what are the difference we're bringing to the market, right? Because I think we are such a hybrid product that I don't think we can be compared to 100% compared to any product. For example, Uniswap or Aave, right? You can say, oh, we have the DEX functionality as Uniswap. We also have the lending and borrowing function as Compound Aave. But truly, we are an innovative hybrid. Not innovative because we just put those two functions on our website. It's actually because the swap and lending and borrowing function are actually interconnected, which none of the existing products are enabling the user to, right? For example, when liquidity providers, they go to Uniswap, yes, they are providing the liquidity for the users to essentially make transactions on. But the liquidity providers, essentially, they are suffering hugely from impermanent loss. Whatever they are supplying, they need to supply a token pair, right? If they want to supply to, let's say, REPEs to USDC, they need to supply the two tokens altogether with a ratio. But when they withdraw it, they are not necessarily withdrawing the same amount of REPEs and USDC. It will be dependent on the specific time whenever they withdraw that liquidity pair. So they are meant to suffer from impermanent loss. On the other side, if you go to, let's say, supply assets to a lending and borrowing protocol, those assets are primarily being used for, retail users borrowing over collateralized against that pool. So your capital utilization rate for inside the lending and borrowing pool is capped to be 100%. And usually it's because it's over collateralized. So the max LTV is usually 70% or 80% or 60%, even lower. So the low capital utilization rate will lead to a pretty low yield for those liquidity providers. And why we are so special is, first, we allow the liquidity providers to do the lending and borrowing just exactly similar to Compound Aave, single token supply and borrow without impermanent loss. But whatever they deposit into the pool is actually being utilized by the market makers to do credit-based trading, credit-based settlement. So that means the assets inside the pool, the capital utilization rate is really, really high. Now we just did our testing for the product, right? The interconnectedness of the lending and borrowing plus swap on zkLink, and daily the average capital utilization rate is at least 300%. And on a good day, it could be 500% to 600%. And this kind of capital utilization is not being seen on any other lending and borrowing protocol or DEXs. If you want to crunch some numbers, I think for utilization rate, how we calculate here is you use your daily trading volume to divide by the TVL, right? So if we apply the same mathematics to Uniswap V2, it usually is daily 10% to 20%. Uniswap V3 could be 40% to 60%. That's it. That's the largest AMM DEX in crypto. And I do believe that when native we deployed the new lending and borrowing plus swapping functionality, which is essentially our liquidity, which is essentially our peer-to-PMM liquidity provisioning engine onto different ecosystems such as Ethereum, Arbitrum, and Mantle. We gonna show the world or the retail users how capital efficient we are, and they will enjoy unexpected high and sustainable yield coming from native liquidity engine.
Fantastic. And just to explain what chains Native is compatible with at the moment, and how will that change in the future, Maina?
Yeah, the swap functionality is currently live on 10 chains. You have most of the EVM compatible chains, Ethereum, BNB, Arbitrum, Mantle, Polygon, the list goes on, right? And then for the lend and borrowing or native earn, it's currently just finished the testing phase on ZK-Link Nova. And now we are currently planning the official deployment on Ethereum, Arbitrum, Mantle, and BNB chain, which we should expect the completion of the deployment by the end of this month. And yeah.
Yeah, and what can you share in terms of, I don't know, any user metrics that you want to talk to, like, you know, volume and so on, that stand out for Native, and where you're at the moment and how we see that progressing?
Sure. The overall volume, I think, as a new protocol, Native first went live back in April 2023. So it has been a year now, and we have already powered a little bit over 2.9 billion in terms of spot trading, with I think 9 million user transactions. And every day, I think the users who come directly to Native to trade, right? I'm not talking about the transaction volume that comes from other aggregators. I'm talking about users directly come to Native because they trust us. Is around like 50K users every day, which if you compare it to like major leading DEXs, this is also a very decent traction. And then, as I said, our next phase of the product, as well as the focus as a team, is definitely to improve the user experience for the retail users so that we attract more traders, liquidity providers to Native. So we do look forward to that, and I think all those metrics will be increased significantly.
Yeah, makes sense. I saw you had this a tweet, Maina, which I thought was a really good way to think about DeFi and the kind of kind of products that you guys are building. Lots of other teams are as well. But you talked about how, you know, if you envision the path from order flow to liquidity as a network structure instead of a linear structure, that's a good way to think about things, because it means, you know, wherever there is those market inefficiencies, as long as you're fast enough, you can tap into those different yield opportunities. What do you want to just kind of explain the thinking behind that?
Yes, I think the source actually come from the other day I was reading a order flow analysis report conducted by a Flashbot team. Right. They actually analyzed like where all those order flows in the crypto are to, you know, solvers and then to different liquidity sources. And I look at the different players they listed on the map, right? And of course, because when they are creating this report, they try to break down from different order flows, and the order flows going to different menus, to different solvers, and then to different liquidity sources. It has to be linear, otherwise the users will be confused. But when you really think about it, right, especially for those players in the middle, a lot of players are in the middle. For example, you have like aggregators, you have solvers, you have market makers. Like some of the solvers I know, they are not only solving the transactions or making profits by batching different transactions, they are also providing pricing through our API, right? They have the capability to do PMM pricing. Or some of the market makers, maybe they do a lot of DeFi arbitraging. They provide PMM pricing, but also they arbitrage against central exchange venues in terms to get more liquidity. So I think like in the middle, right, when users send a user transaction request to essentially where the liquidity source is used, meaning which liquidity venues are being used to settle that transaction, in the middle, it's actually a big network structure, not a linear structure, meaning you as a player, you as a provider within this.
Let's talk about cryptocurrency today. Have you heard about it?
Yes, but I don't know much. It's like online money, right?
That's a good start. Do you know the name of any cryptocurrencies?
Bitcoin and Ethereum.
Perfect. Those are two of the most popular ones. Do you know how people get Bitcoin?
I think they buy it or maybe mine it.
Correct. Mining is when computers solve complex problems to create new bitcoins. Have you heard of mining before?
Only the word. Is it expensive to do?
Very. It requires a lot of electricity and powerful computers. Do you know why people like cryptocurrencies?
And maybe because they can make money.
Yes, that's one reason. Another reason is that cryptocurrencies are decentralized. Do you know what that means?
Not really. What does it mean?
It means there's no central authority, like a bank or government, controlling it. Transactions happen directly between people. Does that make sense?
Yeah, kind of, so it's like sending money to someone without using a bank.
Exactly. Do you think this is a good idea?
Maybe, but isn't it risky?
Good question. It can be. We'll talk about the risks in part 2.
So, you mentioned that cryptocurrency can be risky. Why do you think that is?
Maybe because its price can go up and down a lot.
Exactly. That's called volatility. Cryptocurrencies can gain or lose value very quickly. Do you know why this happens?
Maybe because a lot of people are buying or selling.
That's one reason. It also depends on news, regulations, and even tweets from famous people. Have you heard of anyone influencing crypto?
Oh, yes, Elon Musk, right.
Righty, his tweets have caused prices to rise or fall. It's fascinating but also unpredictable. Do you think this is a good thing?
I'm not sure. It sounds exciting, but maybe dangerous too.
That's a good observation. Now, have you heard of terms like HODL or FOMO?
FOMO, yes, it means fear of missing out, right. But HODL, no, what does that mean?
HODL means hold on for dear life. It's used when people don't sell their cryptocurrency, even during price drops. Why do you think they do that?
Maybe they think the price will go up later.
Exactly. They believe in the long-term value. But it's not always easy. Do you know what trading means in this context?
I think it's buying and selling to make a profit.
Yes, there are two main types, short-term trading and long-term investing. Which one do you think is more common?
Maybe short-term.
Correct. Many people try to profit from daily price changes. But it's risky. Can you guess why?
Because the price can change suddenly?
Exactly. That's why people study charts and trends. Have you heard of technical analysis?
No, what is that?
It's when traders use charts and patterns to predict price movements. They look at things like support and resistance. Does that sound complicated?
A little, yes. Are there tools to help?
Yes, there are many apps and platforms, but even with tools, it's not guaranteed. Have you heard of people losing money in crypto?
Yes, I've heard some stories.
That's why learning and understanding are so important. What do you think is the safest way to start with cryptocurrency?
Maybe just invest a little at first.
That's a smart idea. Never invest more than you can afford to lose. Do you know about wallets?
Like a digital wallet.
Exactly. There are two types, hot wallets and cold wallets. Do you know the difference?
Not really. What's the difference?
A hot wallet is connected to the internet like an app. A cold wallet is offline, like a USB device. Which one do you think is safer?
Cold wallet.
Correct. It's less vulnerable to hacking. But it can be less convenient. What do you think is more important, safety or convenience?
Safety, I think.
Good answer. Safety should always come first. Cryptocurrency can be exciting, but it's important to stay informed and be careful.